Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more, they all know. Vice, Lotus and Friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 139, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
This is Yann.
And we have another great themed show here for you folks. Now, as before in the week, we actually had teased a little bit about what we were going to talk about. Mostly we're going to be talking about the Resident Evil franchise. In particular, we wanted to talk about the recent entries in the series. In particular, Yann had been playing the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's something that both Lotus and I are very excited to start doing and start playing, but we take a long time to play our games most of the time, so...
It'll be, I'm just going to say it straight up, it'll be years before I play Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Really?
Years.
I'm trying to let's play the games in order. It'll be a fucking long time before I play Resident Evil 2 Remake.
But you played remake in the same order.
What do you mean?
You played it along with the rest of the Resident Evil 1.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I mean, I recorded Remake a while back to make my Resident Evil 1 comparison video, but that Let's Play still hasn't come out. It's coming up actually relatively soon, but that's where I'm at right now, is Remake in the timeline. And if you recall, Remake came out in fucking 2001 or 2 or something.
Yeah.
So, it's an old game. I mean, I played the HD version, but it's a GameCube game.
Well, I'm certainly excited to play 2. The remake of 2. I haven't really played many since 5. I played a little bit of Revelations 1, but I do want to play Revelations 2 and 6, but I never got around to them. So I am excited to play it. What did you have to say about the new game there, Yann?
The new remake you're talking about, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty refreshing retake of the original. I mean, it's close to a perfect game. However, there was a few things I find that did not particularly... I did not find it particularly fun. I can say that. But it is close to perfect, I would say.
Well,
okay.
What are the flaws then? Because, I've only played the demo, and I'll say the stuff that I found frustrating was destructible knife. A lack of... I understand that when you investigate items, flavor text, pauses the game and freezes gameplay, so I understand that that's disruptive, but there's no flavor text or anything, so if I ever activate something that requires an item, it just pops open my item menu, and I'm like, what am I doing? That felt a little weird. And also, zombies take 68 headshots and just don't die, and that's really irritating.
So, in regards to flavor text, one of my favorite thing about the original Resident Evil is that you can click on the table and it'll tell you a bunch of random, non-important stuff.
Yeah, you get lore that way.
The lore, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, they don't really have that as much. It's mostly the only lore that you really get from the new remake is notes, journals, and notes. Basically, that's really it. It's not as fun to me. This game takes itself quite seriously, which I don't have a problem with. This is their new take on this series. But for me, I grew up with corny Resident Evil 1 cutscenes and goofy Resident Evil 2 dialogue. So to me, it's different.
Well, I get the feeling Resident Evil 1 and 2 were supposed to be serious. It's just that, the voice acting was wonky as hell.
I mean, for Resident Evil 2, there's definitely an improvement. They got, actors, although they aren't really well known at the time. They did get voice actor, slightly professional voice actor to do the voices. There was a major improvement compared to the first one, with its cheesy cutscene, which we all know.
Well, it was cheesy, but I'm not sure that was intentional. From what I've read, and I don't know if this is necessarily true, but I read that like a Japanese director judged which takes to use. So he was like, "Oh, that one sounds interesting and emotional, even though the cadence doesn't make sense in vernacular." So like, there were probably different takes. Like, "Stop! Don't open that door! Stop it! Don't open that door!" Stuff like that. And he just took like a weird take. He's like, "That's the one for me."
I mean, it sounds like that is like either a cultural or language difference that caused that to happen. But yeah. So what were we saying? We were saying that there was no
Oh,
flavor
voice
text.
actors in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, voice acting in the original Resident Evil 2. I don't know. When I played it, I was young. I liked it, but it probably did not age well. Unfortunately,
Some aged better than others. Chief Irons, I remember, was kind of funny because he just had a sort of theatrical melodrama to his delivery, even though he didn't have that many lines. Like, the line that always sticks in my head is when you first meet him, and he's got, I forgot who it was, like the mayor's daughter or something, like the dead body.
Daughter, yeah.
And he's just got her dead body, like, on his table, and he's just like, "Well, this is my life." But, like, his delivery was amazing. He was like, "And to think, taxidermy used to be my hobby, but no longer." And that little uptick just cracked me up. It's just
It was
come
pretty
on.
goofy. It was pretty goofy.
Yeah.
Another character I kind of like was Ben. From
the reporter.
original. The reporter's like, oh, when he was dying, he was like, oh, bitter irony, chief of police,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
co-conspirator. I was like, what? And like,
Yeah,
I never
I
forget
forgot how
that
funny
line.
that was.
I've never forgotten that line ever since. Which, speaking of character and plot development, which I find slightly lacking in the remake.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, like, there are characters aside from Leon and Claire that's
Yeah.
doing their own thing in the hospital in the original. I'm sorry, in the
police
police
station.
Police
Yeah.
station. In this one, in the remake, they go and do their own thing, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're not as important, but the focus wasn't on them as much. Like, they weren't as memorable as like the original was. Like, you knew those two were kind of goofy, their way of dying, and it was memorable to me. But for this one, it just happens. I don't know. I can't really explain it, explain this, but I personally, maybe it's nostalgia, I personally find the original way better, and how they treated the new one, especially Ben. He didn't really show up all that much in the remake, to be honest.
Well, Ben was only in like the original game, like what, once? Like, you meet him in a jail cell and then you leave and then he dies.
Right. He talks. He still have lines instead of in the new one where he just dies. He said,
he doesn't have lines?
He has like one or two lines. It wasn't as memorable as what he said to like when he was.
Yeah, he was
dying.
more expository in the original game, I guess.
Did they ever say? Does the guy say at the beginning?
Oh,
that guy was a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
Oh, you mean like the
truck driver?
Yeah.
Why'd he bite me?
No, it wasn't as corny. I don't remember particularly what he said, but he didn't really say much, to be honest.
Well, I heard they actually did flesh out Kendo, though.
Oh, I have to say,
it's
yes,
Kendo.
It's Kendo.
Yeah, Kendo, the gun shop owner. Like, well, don't you worry, girlie. We're protected in here. Like, he has a goofy voice.
It's Kendo.
They fleshed it out in a way that they added a daughter. He has a daughter.
Yeah, I heard about that. He's actually got stakes. Because, like, why are you just in your store? I mean, I guess a gun store's a pretty good place to be in the zombie apocalypse.
Right. And I don't know how I should go about like the spoilers. I don't know people that are listening if they either play the game, planning to play the game, or haven't played the game. So
think of it this way: Vice and I know nothing.
Okay, so yeah, I definitely do not want to spoil. Like, I'll try my best.
Obviously, we know the plot, but when it comes to new content
stuff,
where it involves like fleshed out characters, like I heard Chief Irons actually has a house you can go to, so like that's new. I don't know what that is. So I'm more concerned about situational spoilers than like, gee, I wonder if William Birkin's the bad guy. You know, like we know that.
Right. Yeah, and I guess you can say they sort of like slightly gave them a little more storyline in the new DLC as well. Capcom released 3 DLC.
Oh, I heard
Um,
about that. Yeah.
right. I unfortunately only got around doing the mayor's daughter. Um, can't really, spoiler aside, can't really say too much about the other
Oh,
two.
the mayor's daughter, really?
It was I think it was the mayor's daughter. She was wearing a white dress
Wow,
and
because
she
like
was blonde.
Kendo
Kendo
you
was
see
there.
for a second, but like the mayor's daughter, she's already dead by the time you get her at all in the original game. That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure that girl is the mayor's daughter because she was trying to find Ben. I don't know what the relationship is or anything, but
Hmm.
it was. I'm pretty sure it's the mayor's daughter. It
Okay.
was a unknown soldier that was trying to get the sample, and Kendo. That's the
Okay.
3 DLC.
An unknown soldier trying to get the sample though, like unless it really is just a totally unknown soldier, was it Hunk? Because
It I
Team Alpha was trying to get the sample and then Team Alpha got killed. Maybe it was one of the other members of Team
maybe
Alpha.
maybe it was Team Alpha because it could not be Hunk because Hunk also have his own um, game.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, just like in the original
in
game, you
just
could
the
unlock
original,
Hunk.
Hunk and Tofu, which
Yeah, yeah,
haven't
Tofu.
really gotten around to it, so I can't really say too much about like any
Tofu sucked to
changes.
play so bad in the original game. Like the only way
Didn't he
I
just
beat
have the
Yeah,
that,
knife?
he has the knife.
yeah,
Yes.
knife only and a lot more health. The only way I was able to beat that was by cheating. Like the Nintendo 64 version of the game has an invincibility push button code, so I just used that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no other version has push button codes. Every version has infinite ammo code though.
Infinite ammo.
Infinite ammo. Otacon.
Wow. Well,
Actually, one cool thing I heard about the new game though is that there are bosses that are exclusive to certain characters. Like I think like only Leon gets the alligator because in the original game everybody had the alligator, everybody had the G monster, but like the difference was which version of Birkin you fought. Like character number 1 fought Birkin forms 2 and 4, and character number 2 fought 1, 3, and 5. But apparently in the new version, like I said, certain bosses are exclusive to certain characters, not just Birkin, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's you're right. The Leon, only Leon accessed that particular part of the sewer where he fights the
Hmm.
alligator, and the other one's blocked off by Claire. And Claire will only fight Birkin, um,
Okay, because
like
that is
that.
interesting because in the original game it wasn't character specific. It was
Route
person A and
A and B
specific and person B. Yeah, so like if
scenario.
you did Claire A, Leon B, or Leon A, Claire B,
Well,
Claire B or Leon B would deal with Mr. X and not Claire A or Leon A.
right, vice versa. Yeah, that's one of the strengths of the original, the A/B scenario, and I'm sure everyone knows about the sapping system. So that's one of the biggest draw for the original Resident Evil. That's why I love it so much. Like for instance, there's this particular part. Uh, help me out here, Lotus Prince. You
Mhm.
played that game probably even way more than I have, and you have
Well,
compared the
just to make the
differences.
video, I played each version of the game at least once. Well, I had to
So
do A B stuff. It was a chore.
so so you would know more. Um, there is a part where if you pull down the shutter for one character in A scenario, you won't be able to close a different part of the police station in B scenario. Am I correct?
Oh, that I don't remember about shutters. I know that there were certain things that affected A B scenario. You might be right, and maybe I just didn't feel like doing it. So there probably is something like that. The main things I remember that affected A and B scenarios were picking up the ammo side
Ammo,
pack, and then the other
gun.
character couldn't do it. Yeah, or what was the other thing? Marvin, zombie Marvin. If you kill him, then he won't be in the B scenario, and if you don't, then he will, which I thought was really cool. There were little things like that. There might have been the shutters though. I just don't remember because like it got to a point where I was just blazing through the game, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, that shutter part, like it, because your option in the original was either you only have one option. You can only close the right side or left side. You can't do both sides. So because you're gonna backtrack later on, you would tend to close the right side because that's where you're gonna go down into the garage. So I usually
Okay.
close the right side. That's something really minor, and that really sticks to me for whatever reason. But you were talking about Marvin
Yeah.
and how if you kill Marvin in A, that's something I did not notice. That if you kill Marvin in A, he won't show in B, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like I mean, I never noticed it because of course you're gonna kill him. But if for some reason you don't, then he'll just be chilling in B, and he won't have the scary music because he'll just be hanging around. Like he doesn't have a grand entrance. He already had the grand entrance.
So I could answer that question for the remake. So I started with Leon. They call instead of calling A and B scenario because they know that it is no longer considered a scenario. They call it runs now. Second run, first
Fair
run,
enough.
second run. So they knew the distinction that it no longer is a zapping system. They did. I was told that they did not have the time to implement that. Um, it is what it is. I'm not gonna go too much in depth into the history about that. But when I did Leon first run, I killed Marvin because I mean I just didn't want zombies roaming, and
I think I just killed Marvin.
I
Yeah,
just killed Marvin.
Like the story just seems to call for it. Like yeah, I mean, even though you don't have to, it feels like I really should kill this guy. They're giving me a scene and everything.
Right?
Pulp
It
Fiction,
seems
anyone?
like it seems like Leon
Oh,
Leon would do that, like
yeah.
to help this fellow out. So I killed Marvin in um, uh, first run. So when I
Mhm.
started Claire's, when I went in, Marvin was walking around. So that didn't really
Oh, that didn't
translate
translate.
over. That didn't translate
Ironic,
over.
as the PS1 covered that detail. Oh, actually, speaking of details, like I played the demo, so I didn't fully explore the police station. But in the break room, because I know that Marvin's in the lobby, in
Right.
in the remake, but in the break room, did oh no, that's what it is. He appears in the lobby in both games, but he like retreats, I think, into the break room later. That's where you meet his zombie form. In the break
Oh,
room,
right.
are there like party favors all around, like for like
Yes.
Leon's welcome party?
It was like welcome Leon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
There's
depressing. Speaking of which, I heard the new game, picked up on other little things, like the store Aracas, which is Sakura backward. It's just like a Capcom Street Fighter nod. And I think they got little labels for the dogs, Jojo and Rocket. It's just like, yes, we remember those two dogs. Hooray.
I don't I don't recall running into it. I mean, to be honest, I'll
Even in the
be
first game, it was a
honest.
minor detail.
I'll be honest. When I first played the game, with the first Leon run, I did it on normal difficulty. I had 93 saves, and I did it in 13 hours.
Wow.
I got a C.
Jesus.
I was not particularly. It's one of those games where I kind of want to take in the atmosphere. I want to see everything, all the details. I took my time basically. I played it
Hmm.
safe. There was a few surprises that you know even surprised me as someone that played the original. That
Hmm.
I didn't expect that to come.
Well, that's
Um,
what I like. Is the original Resident Evil remake did that as well. Like, the game is more different than you realize from its PS1 version. There are like extra rooms or puzzles are solved differently. Like my favorite was punishing you for knowing the original game. Like with the tiger statue, if you
yes.
put the red jewel in it, which you're supposed to do on the PS1, then you just activate a trap where snakes fall from the ceiling, and you're like, "What?" And it turns out you need like a different colored gem. Just like gotcha. So I wouldn't be surprised if Resident Evil 2 pulled those kinds of shenanigans as well. Although one thing I will say, this is such a stupid little thing, but one thing I must admit is a bit disappointing, is that this is an over-shoulder view, so you can never turn and face the camera, right?
Uh, it's difficult. You can like step forward and turn around.
Like, can you ever just face the camera?
I mean, I can look at Leon's face and I can consider that facing the camera, but
Fair enough, because in
shooting
the
at a
old
camera, but no, no, not at
that's
all.
what I was gonna say. Because in the old game, you could shoot the camera and it would make little bullet holes like on your TV screen.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it
That's
was
an
like,
interesting thing.
hey, video games.
Um, yeah, but like you said, if you said Resident Evil 1, right? If you know something from the original Resident Evil 1, it might the
Yeah,
puzzle,
remake just
right?
played a little prank. Like, you think you know this game? Think again.
So it's the puzzles are what you would expect. It doesn't play the prank like your example pointed out.
Mhm.
But for instance, there are places where I think an enemy would jump out, but did not.
Okay. Actually, Resident
That's
Evil
what it
1
was.
pulled that really early with the dog hallway, where when you walk by the window, instead of a dog bursting through, the window cracks just a little bit, and then nothing happens. And it's like, I got you. But if you ever come back to the dog hallway, then a dog jumps through. So just when you thought it was over, it like fools you twice.
Right. So like that's kind of refreshing to me. Like
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. That's interesting. And we were also talking about how like the lack of A and B scenario, um, and the zapping system. But there are certain really minor details that shows you that Leon's doing his own thing and Claire's
Mhm.
doing her own thing, but you never run into each other like in the original. That was an issue I had.
Yeah, you did like a couple of times in the original, right? It was just like, oh hi,
Like
maybe I have an item that
like
can help
twice
you.
maybe. Like the first time I know for a fact is when you go into the Stars office. That's the first time you run
That's
into her.
right. And there's another time, like upstairs in like a wooden room where Sherry crawled through a hole or something. It's like, did you see that girl? Oh, I just lost her.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, in the second floor. I know it's the second floor by the stairs leading up to the rooftop. Something like that.
That's yeah. My memory's hazy, but that sounds about right. I think it was like off of the library or something.
Yeah, something like that, like around that area. So like, I thought they that's one of the flaws. Like I just kind of want to cover all the pros of all the jewels of this game before we really hit on what prevent this game from being completely perfect in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, how about this? Mr. X, you used to be able to wail on him until you knocked him out. Now, I mean, I understand that the new game doesn't really do loading screens, so you can't just clear the room and then leave and then he gets back up. But you're not really able to incapacitate him at all. Like, maybe stun him slightly a bit, but you can't just knock him down, can you?
I haven't tried particularly to do it. It seems like a waste of ammo because this game.
Yeah, it's probably like Nemesis, where like you can and you do get rewarded, but if it's your first playthrough, like just don't.
Right. You actually like for a game that like I knew so much. There's still like kind of like unknowns of certain things. So I don't want to particularly spend too much time trying to knock him down when we kind of know that wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Apparently, there's an achievement for knocking his hat off.
I did knock his hat. That was out of fright. I was scared.
Yeah.
I turned around and I got punched in the face. I did not expect it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I appreciate he still has his power walk. He's not running or anything, so you can outrun him. It's just terrifying. Right. Oh, one thing I thought was fascinating, by the way, is that the original Resident Evil games, I forgot about 3, but I think it still applies for 3, is they never had more than one enemy type on screen at the same time. I noticed this when I played Resident Evil 1 on the DS, where the arranged mode, or the new mode, does have multiple enemies of different types, and it really threw me off. I'm like, something's weird about this. Like, oh yeah, I've never seen it before. So it was really interesting to see Mr. X actually interact with zombies. Like, he'll just shove them out of the way. And I thought that was really cool because that opportunity never existed in the original game. Because whenever you would encounter Mr. X, I think it was in free rooms.
Right. I think it has to do, like, that particular instance where Mr. X is only in certain parts and can't really interact and can't have too many enemy types. I think it has to do with the constraint. I don't know, personally.
Well, yeah, the old games never had multiple enemy types. So, like, what did Mr. X do with zombies in Resident Evil 2? Like, nothing. They never shared space.
So, to answer that question, I have an instance where, when I started playing the Leon walk, the first run,
Mm-hmm.
I played it like in a Resident Evil game. I conserve my ammo. If possible, I dodge around stuff. You're taught, like in the original. You got conserve your ammo.
Especially in the first game.
Exactly, in the first game. But then, later on, I did not before I played, I didn't even look at anything about this game. I didn't know anything. So, imagine my surprise when I'm searching for something, and I didn't clear the hallway. Mr. X is chasing you, like, you're running down the hallway, you ran into a zombie, and then there was a liquor that you didn't finish because you're like, I'm just gonna sneak by it. Boom! All 3 of them. Boom.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's pretty
By the
bad.
way,
Yeah.
speaking of the lickers, I heard that, like in the original game, if you walk, not run, and you don't get too close to them, then they won't aggro because they don't have eyes.
That is true. Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty
Hmm.
rad.
Wow.
Yeah, and
And
lickers, by the way, are like again, I haven't played the game outside of the demo, but I've seen like screenshots of lickers. They are quite scary looking in the remake.
I mean, aside from scary looking, sounds, they sound, you can hear it. So,
Yeah, they had that like in the original game. You're just like, nope.
yeah. And speaking of sound, I want to go over how the one thing that this game does very good at doing is sound, like ambient noise.
Sure.
I think the original, I cannot recall. The original game had a lot of music. Am I correct? Am I correct?
The music was gorgeous, and by the way, you can download it for the remake as well. I think it's paid DLC, but you can like the original game. The thing with its soundtrack is it's a product of its time. It's like video games, music, like meanwhile when you play like Uncharted or whatever, unless it's a crazy action scene, I think they try to keep it like ambient for realism. So the new Resident Evil, its soundtrack is way more muted and atmospheric. It's more like get you invested. Like the original game's soundtrack was very moody and atmospheric, but it was more noticeable music. So
That is
like
correct.
it
That
might
is
feel
correct.
out of place in a game as hyper realistic as Resident Evil 2's remake is trying to look. Like you could use it for nostalgia purposes, but it might feel a little off if you play the game like that. It's kind of like picture Doom. Doom 2016's music is very like thrashing guitars and stuff. Older Doom tried to be that, but it was restricted to MIDI soundtracks. So if you listen to old Doom's music now, it sounds very like it still sounds cool, but it's very like it makes you think video game instead of experience. Like Resident Evil 2's old soundtrack is like video game music, whereas the new music sounds more like you're aware it's there, but you're not consciously thinking about it because you're not supposed to.
Right. So yeah, you're right. Because this game is, I guess, higher in production value and their focus is more like atmospheric. So the sound is mostly creaking noises, people walking up and down, but it's not Mr. X, but you can hear creaking of the
That's
stairs
freaky. That's
and
good.
like just noises, the wind hitting like the
Hmm.
windows and like groaning of the zombie from a different part of the police station. So it's a lot of noises, and
That's good. Yeah.
it really it gives it the atmosphere that is perfect for this game.
I will say one thing that you're gonna miss with that, and again, it's very video game music, so it doesn't quite fit. But one thing I kind of miss is just the overarching theme that pervades through some of the tracks, like the William Birkin boss theme that you don't realize is what's playing in like the first screen of the game when you're on the street. Like that. I don't know if you remember the original Resident Evil 2 soundtrack, but it had that like da 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 da, and like that theme was kind of interspersed throughout the game in various like it was kind of like bleak on the first screen. It was a little more action packed when you're fighting like Form 2 Birkin, but the theme is kind of always there, and when you're going more atmospheric, you're not really gonna get that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Don't get me wrong. Like I love the original Resident Evil 2 soundtrack. Like the ending soundtrack was amazing. Like it's got that
Yes.
rocking theme and like you said, the Birkin and different formation of the Birkins and the G's have their own track,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
I'm correct. Yes, this new game is kind of missing that, and that's
And like it kind of has to.
different. Yeah,
Like I understand why it is because it should, but I kind of miss it.
I do. You're right. It is really good music, but this isn't doesn't stand out as much to me. Like there wasn't a particular track that um, really recalling or like something I really particularly enjoyed. It
Yeah,
was just
and again, that's probably the point, but it's just kind of like too bad.
yeah, it is. It is what it is. So
It's like The Last of Us. Like I don't know what that game's soundtrack sounds like, but I don't think that's really the point, except for like the moody, non-playable cutscenes where they're establishing new scenes or something. That's a different story. But when during gameplay, it would just feel weird to have prominent music.
Right. That's pretty much it. Yes. Um, so let's see. What else did I find like I like particular about it? So it feels like it has the spirit of the original Resident Evil, if I can say it like that, and they modernize it. So,
Sure.
like for instance, the okay, I got it. So, for instance, like if you get grabbed by a zombie, and if you have a particular item on you, like for instance, a knife,
Yeah, the
grenade,
knife, yeah.
the flash grenade, you can actually counterattack. So you don't
Yeah,
just
that's straight out of the original remake.
oh the original remake, which I didn't particularly got into actually. I just got to the current
Oh.
that I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no kidding. Those things are no joke. But yeah, like the concept of a defense item is from the original remake, except that in Resident Evil 2, you could just swing the knife around, except it's degradable. In the original Resident Evil, you could not wield the defense dagger. But if a zombie stabbed you, or if a zombie bit you, then you could just stab him in the head, but it would cost you the dagger.
Right. So that's what happens here too.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Yeah, because in Resident Evil 2, you stab them and you get the dagger back, but eventually the dagger breaks. In Resident Evil 1, you stab them and you lose the dagger.
Oh, permanently, right? Even if you kill
Yeah,
it?
because you could find multiple defense daggers. So the only way you could get the dagger back is by a fluke. Like, if you stab a zombie in the head and don't kill him, and then you manage to decapitate him, then you can pick up the dagger. But, like, if anything else stabs you, you can't decapitate any other enemy in the game. So if you stab a hunter or a dog, then that dagger's gone.
Oh, okay. So yeah, in this case, you can pick it up again, but
Right.
like it degrades over time. with
Yeah, because
use.
I played it during the demo. It feels really weird. Like this is the first Resident Evil I'm aware of where, I mean, you could always put the dagger away in older Resident Evil games, but like there is no option in Resident Evil 2. Like if you break that dagger, it's gone. You cannot use a dagger. So like if you don't have any more daggers and you run out of ammo, that is just a shame. Like in the older Resident Evils, if you ran out of ammo, you can get a dagger as a last resort, like a knife. But in Resident Evil 2 Remake, you really want to hold on to that thing as much as you can, because if it's gone, then it's gone.
Right. I mean, there's quite a bit of knives that
Okay.
are available to you, and once, like I said, you can also use other things if you didn't have the knife available. But however, I don't know how the game prompts the use of multiple items. For instance, I was grabbed by a zombie when I was doing Claire second run. I had a knife on me. I have a grenade on me. I also have a flash grenade on me.
Well, don't you set it to like which is your most prominent defense weapon? I think that's what it like with a D-pad or something.
I'm not. Well, I mean, your guns are set there, but like, for example, you get grabbed. I don't want to use my grenade, but for some reason, the grenade option is the one that popped up, and boom, there it goes. There goes your grenade. I was hoping to save that for later.
I thought like again, I only ever got the dagger in the demo because I think that's all you get. But like I thought there was some way to set your sub item or something.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so maybe that's what it was. Oh.
If that's the case, then that's great. But I haven't gotten that far, so I don't know.
But I'm pretty sure I equipped the knife.
Okay.
So
One
I'm
thing I
not
do
sure.
find, I'll have to look into it whenever I get to it. One thing I do find amusing though is I don't know what you have to do this, but one of the unlockables in the game is an infinite knife, which is just kind of funny to me because in the older games, like the knife is an infinite knife, but like it actually means something in Resident Evil 2.
Right.
Like it was kind of a joke in the original Resident Evil 2. If you ever put in the infinite ammo code, it just puts a little infinity symbol by all of your weapons, including the knife.
Including the
so
knife,
it just looks stupid to see an infinite knife, but now like there really is such thing as an infinite knife in the remake.
It's like a item you get for getting all the Mr. Raccoons, because there's like these little statues that scatter. It's like a hunt. It's scattered.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's scattered all over either Leon's scenario, both their scenarios, or
Great.
one or the other. So once you shot all the Mr. Raccoons that you could, then you are gifted with a knife.
That's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, one thing I'm curious about, by the way, do they still have the secret rolls of film you can find and develop in the darkroom?
Yes, they do. I was
Do they
shocked. Yes.
do they still have secret film like D or E or whatever it was, the one where you stupidly have to search Wesker's desk like 50 times? Well, you can't really search
You
the
can't
desk, can you?
really
Because there's no
search.
text.
Yeah, there's no text, so I didn't really go around doing it. But in terms of story wise, there are different rolls of film that you develop to solve certain puzzles, and there is special items that you can only get by getting that roll of film, developing it. That's when
Oh,
your
that's
characters
new.
can go back and get.
So there's actually a reason to do that. Do
Yeah.
they still have like the stupid one though, the one that I was talking about with like Rebecca and the basketball jersey, and it's like, here you go, you search the desk 50 times. Like, do they
Oh,
still
yeah.
have that picture?
That.
I read about it, but I actually haven't. That wasn't not my priority when I tried to play the game.
Okay.
But
Here's a
I'm
fun
aware.
fact, by
Yeah.
the way. Here's a fun fact. In Resident Evil Zero, the HD version, you can just select whatever costume you want. You don't have to unlock the costume by beating the game or whatever, or like finding the key to the locker or whatever. Like in the HD version, you could just press start and select like a million costumes, and you actually get every costume Rebecca has ever worn, including her cheerleader costume from the DS, her Resident Evil Zero prototype N64 costume, and you actually get the stupid basketball jersey, which I just thought was hilarious. So you just play the game with that.
Yeah, this one also has the option for you to switch the costume mid-game.
Nice.
So you can just press start and
Did Claire, like, maybe... No, I guess you could... Do they have, like, every iteration of Claire, like Revelation 2 or anything like that?
I mean, I purchased the version of the special edition, not the collector's edition. I got the special edition that already came with, you can download the original soundtrack and the blocky outfit from like 1998 or whatever.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
she also
hilarious,
has an Elsa Walker costume, which is insane. That's amazing.
Right, that's a pretty... I like that callback to the Resident Evil quotation 1.5.
Yeah, like prototype Resident Evil 2, like that's so good. I think Noir is just like a new costume. Like they just
Noir's-
made up that
yeah,
one. And
that
I
one-
think you have a black and white option with that costume as well, which is amazing.
Well, guys, we should have an end to this conversation because
Yeah, we are getting there, yeah.
we do have to move on to our weeklies. So,
Mm-hmm.
definitely say your last few bits here, and then we'll move on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go
So,
for it.
yeah. I mean, overall, the game is excellent, and it's a refreshing, once again, remake of the original. However, there was a few nagging issues, such as plot discrepancy and the severe lacking of certain plot that feels to me unresolved, that
Okay.
it prevents it from being entirely perfect in my eye.
Okay. But still a solid product.
It's a solid Capcom product. Yes.
Yeah, I'm super happy they finally went ahead and did it. It's been like 14 or 15 years since oh no, this is like 2002, right? Or 2003, so it's been like 16 or 17 years. Like, so it's cool that they finally went ahead and did the next remake. I hope they do a Resident Evil 3 remake, because that whole game is being chased by Mr. X, except it's Nemesis, but that time it's like the plot.
I mean, I did recall, I think Capcom was asking people how interested they were based on the sales of Resident Evil 2. As
Oh,
evident,
sure.
It's
There's probably no
excellent.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right.
All right. Well, this week I do want to do Vise's weigh in here. I am the same at 255, but I will be going on to the gym later this week. So me and my girlfriend have plans. So we're gonna make some progress there.
Okay. So for fan reaction, fan questions, reaction, we have General Ledger talking about favorite minigames. General Ledger says for minigames, there's a dart game in Alundra 2 that you could play for power-ups. Unfortunately, each round consumed a pack of darts, which are rare treasure chest drops. That sucks. Star Ocean's Iron Chef contest had some amusing outcomes, especially when certain characters get weird ingredients like slime. The motorcycle and snowboarding minigames in Final Fantasy VII were fun, but I found the submarine one to be lackluster. Fair enough. And now we get to our question of the week. Fakafan asks, what items in video games do you consider too good for their own good? For example, I never use elixirs in Final Fantasy. Ever. because they're too good. I end up just hoarding them.
Yeah, I know
that
on
feel.
that one.
Also, in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, the bazooka and the weed whacker are both super strong weapons and fun as heck to use. The problem is they're too useful. The bazooka can bust open doors and walls, rendering keys almost redundant, and the weed whacker is necessary to cut down the evil grass. But they're so fun and satisfying to use. Yeah, like Super Mario RPG, like the red essence, I just never use it. It makes you invincible for like 2 or 3 turns. But I'm like, oh, it's a rare item. Now I have it in my inventory. I can look at it, and I just never use it.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys have any items that are too good to use? Like, I mean, any item that there's like only a couple of them in the game, I just never use.
Yeah, I really have a trouble in a lot of RPGs. Like, I usually end up hoarding like really, really good items. I'm always afraid that I'm gonna use them incorrectly. In particular, like modification things. Like, I'm afraid of upgrading like an item, for instance, like that I won't use in the future. Like,
okay.
for instance, I'll give you a recent phenomenon. When I was playing Parasite Eve, you can use upgrades on your guns,
Yeah.
and I always wonder to myself, is it worth it to use it on the gun that I have right now or some gun in the future?
Oh, I see.
And I'm sure they give you enough to where it doesn't matter.
Well, the thing with the game is, early game, you really might ask yourself that question. But you'll find tools, and in really rare cases, super tools, which take the upgrades from a gun and transfer it to another gun.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the
Okay.
regular
Yeah,
tools
yeah.
destroy the gun in the process, but the super tools don't. So you can have your cake and eat it too. You can use those upgrades and move them onto your next gun if you have the tool to do so. And after a whole bunch of shit, you can unlock an infinite tool and an infinite super tool, meaning do whatever the hell you want. It doesn't matter.
Huh.
Yes,
Not to
Wow.
mention, there's New Game Plus as well. I mean, I know you would probably beat the game and just stop, but if you are interested in New Game Plus, then you can find all those upgrades again anyway.
How about you, Yann? Do you have any that you wanted to mention?
in particular about the item, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's anything too good, like it's so good that you don't use it.
it's usually like Final Fantasy stuff,
Yeah,
like
again,
items
yeah.
that you hoard, and at the end of the game you have way too many. I can't hold them all.
Yeah, in my case, it's not even usually items that are too good to use. It's just like, oh, I better save this ammo for when I really need it. And, like,
Right.
so, like, what if I need this ammo? And meanwhile, like, I need it now. I'm fighting with a fucking melee weapon throughout the entire game. It's like, you're supposed to be shooting stuff. Like, that's just how I play, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have time for this week. Unless you have any other further remarks.
Yeah, further items, that is a tough one. Or maybe, like, something similar. Maybe a super weapon, but with limited ammo, so I never
Yeah.
use it, which means, again, I effectively have 0 ammo for it because I'm never using it, which defeats the purpose.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, then. Well, that will be the show for this week. We want to thank our fans that supplied us with who contributed questions. Jeez, man, I'm getting tired.
Well, they did supply us with them.
Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. How many do we have left here, Lotus? Do you know?
For questions, we're down to our last one.
Yeah, don't make us come up with our own, please.
We're in dire straits, and I don't mean the band or the JoJo characters. Well, that was pretty good. Oh, wait. I meant the opposite.
Movie stars. That's actually Beverly Hillbillies, but anyway.
The UH, like the UHF,
Yeah.
like Weird Al parody.
Exactly.
We've got the movies, refrigerators. That's the real
Gotta
one.
move these color TVs. There's some outdated lines in that song. Boy,
Just
howdy.
a little bit. Well, I mean,
Boy,
and even
howdy.
outside of the color TV.
No, I mean, like, yeesh kind of stuff. But anyway, listen to it sometime. Or
A
steal
certain
your
somebody
dad's
ended up
iPod.
becoming a millionaire, so I hear.
Well, While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes so I can read
yeah,
again.
the outro. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and boy howdy, and every bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, where I will serenade you with more dulcet tones. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince.
What is it?
You can
What
hit
is-
me up on my
what
YouTube
is it?
channel, Lotus Prince.
What is it?
You can also follow me on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, like The Suffering, or even get involved in Discord conversations with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And Yann, you don't want to find her.
No,
You can find her lurking on Final Fantasy XIV, I'm sure, right?
definitely. I'm on that game all the time.
Under the name Yann Tong,
Yann
with
Tong.
one N or two?
It's true.
2 N's. Yes.
Thanks once again for inviting me to be a guest on your show. It was
No,
great,
we loved having you.
Thank you for being
great
a guest
talking
on the
about
show.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, thank you for being a guest, and show her some love in the comments below, guys.
Resident Evil 2, best in Evil.
Best
Best in
in
Evil 2, yeah.
best.
Resident Evil 2, best in Evil 2.
All right, I'm done. All right.
Until
Have a
next
good
time,
night.
everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll
Good
catch you on
night, everyone.
Tuesday.
Good night.